Welcome to Sober.Coffee, a weekly coffee chat sharing experience, strength, and hope for anyone on the sober road to recovery. You can download Sober.Coffee weekly on all podcast platforms and check us out on Instagram at Sober.Coffee Podcast and on Twitter at Sober.Coffee Pod. To learn more about us and to help support these sessions, visit online at Sober.Coffee. Here are your hosts, two guys on their own path to recovery, Mike and Glenn. Let's join them at the coffee shop.
Still on the path, Glenn.
Amen, man. Still in the coffee shop, right?
Still in the coffee shop, still on the path. Two guys just on the path, road to recovery.
Three
guys.
Three
guys.
We
got
we have a table
Donnie
of three.
back. All
I had
right.
somebody tell me this week, they're like, hey, do you drink coffee? I'm like, yeah. You're not sober. I'm like, okay, thanks.
Oh,
like,
because of the
I'm like,
caffeine?
what? Yeah, I'm like, okay, thank you. I'm Chicago sober, right? No mind-altering substances except for
Except
coffee.
for caffeine. Right, exactly. Got to have that.
You just can't. Don's back in the coffee shop.
Yes,
Don, welcome
awesome.
back, man.
Great.
Love your brother.
Yeah, listen, last
love
week,
your
good
tough
stuff.
love that we talked about last week. The one thing that carried over was, we were talking, and I'm reminded what a guy says in the room, and it's, AA and recovery is not a feel-good program. Right. It's a
program.
it's a get well, get better program.
Yep.
Right. And what I have found is very little of my life do I feel good in the moment. Right. I just grind through. I use the word grind. That's kind of how I look at it. Right. Trudge. Right. The book used trudge. Right. I hate that word trudge.
Yeah.
Right. We were talking about the comfort zone. Trudge. But when I use time of reflection, right, and I sometimes during the year, times during the day, times during the month, that I reflect on where I'm at, that's where I get the feeling. Mm-hmm. And there's times I actually, and the way I feel that God speaks to me, I'm getting right now, I get chills, right? When I'm where I'm supposed to be, doing what I'm supposed to be doing, I think it's a God, and I'm getting right now, it's a God shot saying, you're right there. Doesn't matter how you feel. Mm-hmm. That doesn't matter. Like the word happy. I don't even know what that means, right? But I know I'm doing the right thing, and there's so much of confidence, and that eventually catches up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What do you
Feelings catch up.
How do you convey the fact that somebody can live in that lane? So let's say I'm thinking about being sober. I'm struggling with staying sober. I want what you have. How do you tell me to get to where you're at right now?
All right, so I want to hear what Don says on this, but here I'll chime in first. What clicked for me, I wish I did a diary, but maybe I was 3 years sober, 2 years sober, and I'm grinding it out, right? I'm going to daily meetings, I'm studying the big book, I'm working with my sponsor, I'm trying to adjust the way I live, I'm suffering better, right? I'm doing all this shit, stuff. And I went to bed one night, and there was a sunset, and I'm going to bed at like 8 o'clock, because sometimes I just went to bed early just to end my day. That was one of my tools, right? And instead of staying up and stressing about drinking and whatever, hey, I just went to bed. Sometimes I went to bed at 5 o'clock. And my day
in the morning?
No,
Okay.
at night. But I ended my day sober, right? And there appears early sobriety. That was a win. But I was going to bed, and for 5 minutes, I just had this feeling, I call it peace, where everything in my life at the time was okay. Not grandiose, not super bumblebee fantastic like I use with my daughters, not great, fantastic, all the exuberant words, all the grandiose words. I used the word okay. And then it went away. And what I told myself with some awareness, I'm like, if I keep doing the grind that I'm doing, I am confident that will return. And it was 6 months later. I kept doing it. I had faith, and I lived off of other people in the program. I'd watch Don, and I watched Mike, and I watched Chris, and I watched their progress, and I had faith in them. And I knew if I keep on this, I'll get some of that. I'll get some of that. I'll get some of that, right? 6 months later, I felt that peace again. Now it happens maybe once a week, maybe, I got a lot going on right now, right? A lot of it's challenges. I got nothing but challenges. So I'm living it. My life today is outside the comfort zone. But my quiet time, I get the God shots. I get the chills. I get an opportunity like last night helping a guy out. And you know what? I mean, that was a reminder you're in the right space, doing the right thing. It doesn't matter how you feel, just keep doing it.
So your advice to the guy struggling, to the gal struggling, persevere, and try and find that place of peace.
But you may not for a while,
right? So persevere until you do.
But what I knew is keep doing the right things. I knew I wasn't generating the absolute hell that I had worked my way out of.
Okay, good. Don?
You know what, Glenn? Listening to you, Glenn, it kind of made me think. It reminded me again of what a disease of perception. Addiction is a disease of perception.
Mm-hmm.
And where it always just really, really hit me hard with that, like, it starts out, whether you're the weekend warrior, and, the book, one of the Hazelden readings talks about the joviality of the bar room, okay? When it's a lot of, people yakking, whatever, ha-ha.
It looks attractive from the outside.
It looks attractive, but then I think that the line in the first step, and it says, in AA's pioneering times, in the 12 and 12, none but the most desperate could swallow and digest this unpalatable truth. You've made it to AA. Look at Aram drinking shitty coffee with old people.
Just exactly what I wanted to do when I was 12 years old.
Yes.
I want to grow up and be an AA.
And then it says, but then in subsequent times, young people who were scarcely more than potential alcoholics were spared the literal hell of the last 10 or 15 years, and that was not me. I knew it. The jig was up. I knew it was up. Glenn, you mentioned, being, I always cringe when I hear chronic relapser. That was just a decision you were making because now you proved that you're not a chronic relapser. Right. And you know what? I think, here's a disease of perception. I'm sitting in a room, and I didn't have violent propensities. I don't have but I'm sitting in a room thinking, I might have to kill these three people. All right. And then the next, man, we were partying. I'm there with Christian and I'm looking at him over here, right? And I'm thinking, I know he's a stand-up guy and there's 3-4 of you. And I'm thinking, well, you're a little larger, Glenn. I'm just going to chuck you out the window. I'll throw, and seriously. And these are the thoughts, What the hell am I thinking? And then if those aren't extreme enough, then the frame that is like, well, we were partying last night. No, when we were at the Regency Hyatt having them deliver up $120 bottles of, Stolchenaya, that was a party. This had so long ceased to be a party that that's the way I'm framing it. Because, the old adage, when in Rome, be a Roman. And we get so acclimated to this maladaptive life that we've chosen that it seems like the only natural one. For myself, I remember thinking, the book talks about that morass of self-pity. I never woke up and said, gee, I think I'll bathe in self-pity today. Yeah, right. But every day I would keep doing the same thing, and there I am. Why do I have to go out this way? And it's kind of sickening, and it takes something to jog you out of that.
So what jogged you out of it?
Handcuffs. I told you last episode. Right. Handcuffs. Okay. In my mind, it was always that slinky Burnett.
But you could have went back. You could have went back out.
It was always this slinky Burnett. Of course, I was a little slinkier back then. And she was just going to have these captivating looks that was just going to whisk me out of that life. And, God sent those 3 prophets, live human beings, with the message from the heavens. And the message was, you're under arrest. 7th District Tactical. So I learned God didn't always answer prayers as we had sought. So many lessons. I like to look at the old board game concentration where you'd go, number 5, Amano, washer and dryer. Number 12, Sony big screen. And, you match the prizes, you keep them. So much of what we do in these rooms, we've done prior to ever entering the rooms. I mean, it isn't hard when you've lived in that lifestyle as long as some of us have, when they tell you, well, you need sanity restored. I'm not fighting that because I know the one certainty in my life is I'm insane. Life's unmanageable. And when you look in that mirror and have an absolute contempt and a self-loathing for what you look at, to the point where there's not a drink large enough or a bag of cocaine big enough to anesthetize everything you don't want to feel, now you're really ready. At that point, meetings are not drudgery. Having a sponsor tell you, shut up and listen is not drudgery. Then I'm, what the big book says, I'm beaten into that state of reasonableness.
Have you found Glenn's place of peace?
You know what? I once again, I don't know Glenn well, but just hearing his story, and like I said, when you first referenced, I was a chronic relapser, and I have another friend here, I'm a chronic I just cringe with that. That's just who you were. The disease of perception. I'm giving an example, and I don't know, from the day I walked in, but for the grace of God, I've never had to have another drink or a drug. And I wonder, like, we study people, like, what goes through the mind, like this urge. Okay, so the urge comes, man, maybe I should pick up. You get that 2-word poem, F it. And then it's like, I try and encourage that mindset with, you don't know if that particular instance, if you resist that urge to use, it may be the last time it comes in 5 years, 10 years.
I love that.
I referenced back early in sobriety once. I had a court date the next day. I was never more happier in my adult life. And, I think I was about 90 days, maybe 100 days clean. And I'm, going through the old hood. I lived in the neighborhood that I did a lot of damage in. And I see an individual, and whimsically, she just happens to be in the car next to me. I didn't even know how it happened, right? I'm really content with life. All of a sudden, I look and I say, you got a place to get high? And but for the grace of God, she says no, because there's the old adage, what do you give a woman like that? The answer being anything she asks for.
Right,
okay.
right,
And I was down, and I understand this. You were talking a little earlier, Glenn, this whole legalism deal, right? We understand. You got to get a sponsor. You got to listen well. You have to work the steps.
Right.
But you still, none of this discounts the grace of God coming into that mix. Right. Okay. Like, I'm illegal. I did this. And I had to. When I claimed the victory, I robbed God of the glory, because he clearly showed me everything I valued at that point in life. I'd never been sober in my life. I was ready to just frivolously throw away, just like that. And you know what? She responded. She said, no. I said, you got a place to get high? She said, no. I look back, my whole destiny, there would have been no court the next day. Now there's a warrant out.
Right.
And you guys have the same type of forks in the road, where you're either going back or you're going to trudge on, because there is no spiritual neutral. You will not stay on that fence long.
I think my answer to my chronic relapse was my ego and my defiance. I was going to do it my way, and I was going to figure this out. And you're not going to tell me what to do. I'm smarter than you. It was my ego, and I had to be beat down to the point where I had enough proof that I was not going to figure this out. And it was there at my point of surrender. I was relapsed at a worst conference, 6 hospitals across the country in 1 week, 8-day detox. All my counselors flew on a Friday, and I was done. And I said, I will do anything you tell me to do. And I meant it. And I still mean it today, so as much as I did then.
Do you abide by the theory that Einstein couldn't get it and Bozo could?
Yep. I couldn't get it, man. I just, and I'm telling you, there's many times, Donna, look back, I'm like, I wish. But, hey, everything, I had to go through that to get to here. And you know what? There are people in the room that say, I'm grateful that I'm an alcoholic, and I thought that was a brain fuck for years. I'm starting to understand that. I never would have found where I'm at today and how I live today without going through what I went through.
So I have a question for you, man. Have you ever found, let's say, 12-step, okay, or just AA service work in general? You mentioned drudgery or trudging.
Yep.
Has it ever been drudgery? Have you found, Mike, in your time, and Glenn, in your time, has it ever felt like drudgery?
I would say yes and no. I mean, in the grand picture, absolutely not. It's been a joyful experience for me. In the moment, it's like, why did I say I was going to pick that guy up to take him to another meeting? Why did I do that? The irony is, so this one guy, I'll just tell the story real fast. He had a seizure, and he got his license taken away for 6 months, and he needed a ride to a meeting. I'm only 6 months into the program, right? And I'm like, I'll do it. My sponsor says, serve, I'll take you. Which meetings you go to? 7 a.m.? Perfect, I'll take you tomorrow. When else do you go? Every 7 a.m. For the next 6 months, I was at every 7 a.m. meeting, driving Jim, right?
But it was great for you.
But I resented it every day.
Yep.
Same question, Glenn.
All right, so I would say I wouldn't use the word trudge. What I would use is I feel inconvenienced, right? Because I got something else going, right? I had a situation last night. I had something else going. I had family stuff I was going to do. My daughter's going back to college, and we had dinner, and I was going to spend the night with the family. And this guy crossed my path. And I said, guys, got to put this on hold. And for And did I want to spend time with the family? Absolutely I did, right? But, so in the moment I felt inconvenienced. Within an hour and a half, I had tears in my eyes, right? I literally had tears in my eyes. And what I have found, Don, to really answer your question, we've been talking about feelings, right? What I find is when I do the right thing, almost 100% of the time, I don't feel like doing it in the moment. Like Monday nights, we have a men's spiritual
our men's group, right?
Or church group, right? 100% of the time, we don't meet till 7. 100% of the time at 5 o'clock, I come up with 7 different excuses why I can't do it. And they meet in my basement.
I know.
Right? So it's hard for me to bag out, right? So at 5 o'clock, every single Monday, I try to find an excuse not to do it. I don't want to do it. Every Monday night at 9 o'clock when they walk out.
Feeling great.
Best thing I ever did.
You know what?
Wait. Second example, it blows my mind. I take ice cold showers in the morning. And you know who helped me do that? Goggins. It's get off the couch, get uncomfortable, be uncomfortable, right? And that's where I really dial into the croc brain. So I start, and my shower is probably 50 degrees, right? I do plunges at 35 or whatever, but my shower is probably 50, 55, right? It's not that cold. But when you wake up, my brain, I've done it for 3 years, every day for 3 years. My brain, every single morning, says, you don't need to do that today. What are you doing that for? Take a warm. Do you remember how great the warm showers were? Take a warm shower today. And every single day, I say, F you, brain, and I get in that cold shower. And that's my way of starting the day at 5 a.m. saying, I'm going to own my brain today. I'm going to own my actions today. I'm not going to let comfort get in the way.
To kind of piggyback both of you guys, my pastor says there's 2 currencies in life, time and money. To whom much is given, much is expected.
Boom.
And, and we're people. Like you said, life at life's terms comes at us, and, there's always a time pull, And I was watching a movie once with a friend of mine, and, the phone rings. Oh, do you have to answer that? And I said, no, I don't have to answer it. And she looks like relieved. I said, but I'm going to. And it's like, a lot of words. We could throw things out in the meeting. And, I'm so grateful. I'm grateful to God. But, a legacy says, I'm grateful for the people that took time with me. What you were saying, Glenn, I was at the Honesty Group, which at one point was my home group. It met at St. Gall's.
I wonder how many attendees they have.
Well, listen, there would be about 600-700 years of sobriety when that meeting was cooking.
That's awesome,
and
man.
I had my 6-7 years, kind of chest thumping, subconsciously, of course. I'm 7 years clean. And, the Bears are on. It's Sunday night. I don't have to go to the Honesty. And I would remember the honesty of the program. I'm thinking, well, Ray will be there. He spoke at the Chicago Open. He's 37 years. Tom Kay will be there. But you with your 7 years, you're a wizard. You don't have to go, And I had a friend who said he's a Steelers fan, a Pennsylvania guy, and he said his sponsor, he had the same situation, and his sponsor said, I'll see you at the meeting. And he said, well, the Steelers are playing. And his sponsor's reply was, next time you need some counsel, you call the Rooney family.
That's hysterical.
I love it.
Yeah, that's good stuff. Yeah, I think that I think you're right. I think that we live to grow. To grow is it's uncomfortable to grow, but it's worth it.
You just keep doing the. I mean, this morning I was exhausted. I was up at 1:30, and at 5 I'm like, Mikey can carry this, right? And here I am. I mean, it's just my brain. The croc brain is programmed for comfort. It's find an easier, softer way,
Does that work? Easier, softer? It
No,
didn't work
man.
for me.
The grind works. The commitment works. The grind works. Suffering better works. But I have learned that all these good things and all the right things, next step things, they add up. And my feelings catch up eventually.
I was at the mustard seed, and this guy used to take notes in a little journal, and I was a little intrigued. I said, you mind if I look at it? He says, no. And he hands me the book, and I'll never forget. This is going back 20 years now. It said, you'll know your principles are changing when what you used to do that felt right when you did it, when you do it now, it didn't say you'll never do it.
Right.
It says when you do it now, you won't, you'll be miserable with it. And, you hear the adage that AA messes up your drinking.
Yeah.
But it also messes up your irresponsibility. It's not
You're
taking
sinning.
accountability.
That's right.
If you really work in that program, because I'm thinking, well, geez, Mike could probably pick this guy up. Well, Glenn's getting up, taking his cold shower.
Right.
So, it's like you guys raise the bar. If you really listen and you throw all in, you're either all in or you're not, and you guys raise the bar.
So I will give you an example of all in or are you not. We have a guy I've known, he probably has, a bunch of years of sobriety, but he's never really worked the steps, right? And, it's very evident because the same conversation we're having today, exact words, 5 years ago, nothing has changed. Because you haven't done, you haven't dug in. You haven't worked for change, so you're not going to get change.
Right. And he's abstinent. He's just not sober.
Yep.
Just not sober. I mean, great life. So, Don, before we leave, you got a guy listening out there, gal. She's thinking, maybe the sobriety thing should be for me, right? Give her the magic line. Give him the magic line. Tell them why they need to explore this.
I could just tell you what kind of lit it up for me was I listened to Glenn tell his story. Mm-hmm. He got out. I listened to you tell yours. In my mind, I said, why not me? Mm-hmm. They tell you, you hear the yes, you're eligible to, and why not me? I think if we minimize the fact that it's a spiritual battle, okay, the book talks about if there was a devil, he was the boss universal, and he certainly had me. Because we make a decision to try and change our life and do the right thing, you're not going to go unopposed.
No.
If you think that same boss universal pats you on the back and say, have a good go of it. It was good to have you, Glenn. Yeah. That power still's got the crosshairs on Glenn saying one shot, one kill.
That's right.
It has no respect of 20, 30 years sober.
No, none.
And you know what? At that point, I think what I would emphasize, I heard a woman at a meeting say a week ago we were at, she said, I felt so alone. And she said it, and it went right to the deepest part of me. And I thought, now you don't have to feel alone anymore. I got Mike, I got Glenn, I got a lot of assets. I have the 12 steps, I have the literature. If I choose to use it, and you just referenced the guy 5 years, chooses that to use it.
Yep.
Love it. You come back again?
Absolutely. I'd
All right,
love
Don.
to.
Awesome. Don, thank
Great
you.
to have
Good
you here,
people.
man.
Good
Really,
to have
really
you.
cool. Chris, great to have you in here too, brother.
All right, man.
Thanks, guys.
Love you guys.
And Danny G's over there. Check out Danny G.
Thanks for joining us for today's coffee chat. To contact the show, email us at podcast@Sober.Coffee. If you need immediate help, the AA hotline is 800-839-1686. The National Suicide Prevention Hotline is 800-273-8255. Remember, Mike and Glenn are sharing their own journey on the path to recovery. Any suggestions, medical or otherwise, are their own experiences and should not be viewed as professional advice. See you next week, and remember, there is a solution.
Stay safe in the city of Chicago. Beautiful city.